What I'd like to do now is try a second.
May I just ask one?
Okay, one question for you.
You're saying that when somebody attacks you, that you to be silent is a huge step forward.
I think so.
And obviously, that if you're feeling aggrieved by what's happened to you, it's something in yourself. But you obviously, unless you can go away and think about it, it's difficult, unless you're about to be to just say, I can see this is my stuff. What would be the next advancement on that? Because even the silence may create an atmosphere and take time to deal with. What would be a way to try to speed up the process of saying, I feel really aggrieved, what is this in me that they're exposing? What is the bit of the iceberg that's just been shown?
So there's been an attack, instead of your reflex of attacking back, you've remained relatively quiet, but you're holding the pain, and then you two separate.
Yeah, because you can't see straight away
what to do.
What is this with my stuff? As far as they punch you in the face and you think that's outrageous, and what
Sure.
is this? What is this to do with me? I understand what you're saying, and see that it is something to do with yourself. It's some of this iceberg, but how can you get there faster? What a mechanism could you use right there and then to diffuse it or to look at it yourself?
Right there and then may be impossible, especially if somebody's punched you in the face. I mean, it's quite a big provocative. So, if you could turn to prayer, if you could turn to Jesus at that moment and say, look, I'm in pain, can you show me another way of looking at this? That would be wonderful if you really meant it. That would be an advance, because you're in a lot of pain. Can you show me how I haven't a clue how I could be at peace in this situation. This is totally unjustified, I don't even know the person. Show me another way of looking at this. But that's still pretty advanced. Most of us are not quite at that point after being hit in the face. So,
well, maybe that's too extreme an example. What if it's your partner or your mother or something?
That's worse.
You'll take the punch in the face then.
Oh, you take the punch in the face of your mother. Because your conditioning with your mother and your partners is that you've got all your defences and you too, so you have that to work with. So you may have to work in private with it. There's an exercise that's coming up for that. If you can't, it's always the same solution you see in the end, no matter what it is. It's I've elected to suffer this pain, and I like to see another way of looking at it. Could you help me? But there must be absolute sincerity in that prayer. Jesus says words mean nothing. It's the prayer of the heart we're listening to, and the prayer of the heart will either go to the ego or to the Holy Spirit. And so if you're really open to any answer to be shown, it's very quick. It's still pretty advanced. So what I wanted to do just was give some, you walk away to the healing station in your bedroom, and this is what works for me. I wanted to try some for you. So hold any further questions, and we'll just try a brief exercise now, which is a quickie. This is like a sitting in the toilet exercise, or after you've mopped the blood, if you like. So just relax a moment in your chair, put your pens and papers in. It's also helpful to do just some relaxation. If this is a quickie, then we'll do it now. Just close your eyes a moment. Take a couple of deep breaths. And then, as you breathe in next, tense the muscles of the lower part of your body, both your legs, the buttocks, your bottom. Tense them in as you breathe in, and relax them as you breathe out. And as you breathe in again, just tense the muscles of the upper part of the body, clench your fists, squeeze your shoulder blades together perhaps as you breathe in. And release. Check your neck is free. You might want to rotate your head a little. And now invite the help that is always there. Just send out a silent prayer that in this healing exercise you're willing to do it with the presence of Spirit. Give permission for that light to enter in. And if it helps you, you could imagine it as a warm presence around you, or if you're more visual, as a light coming down into your head and heart. I welcome the healing to be with me. You could now ask the Holy Spirit, if you wish, to allow some person to come forward where you still have an issue around losing your peace. The person could be alive or dead. Maybe someone on the list that you used earlier today. If you can't think of anyone, just choose someone you don't like. That'll do. Just even if you don't like a little bit. Let those unacceptable thoughts fill your mind. Thoughts that perhaps you feel a little ashamed of and you don't want anyone else to know about. Just see if you can let them be in your mind. Just watch them come. Maybe anger, hatred, perhaps wishing to kill someone. They're all fine. You can't kill the Christ, so just let them all come in. But see how your mind will try and oppose them as well, just squeeze them out of existence. Wish they weren't there. I'm supposed to be spiritual. They buzz around in the mind. Sadness, fear, anger. Feel the denial and the tension that go with these thoughts. Try and allow them to float a little more freely in the mind, not to suppress them though. They're not evil, just ego products. And now start to let them physically sink down through your head so they start to approach the throat. So you can just feel that they're falling, and they're heading towards the heart space, a space of absolute acceptance, a space of absolute non-judgment, a space that knows you're the Christ, absolutely perfect, and these are little nightmares you have while you still think you're separate from God. Let them just slide or tumble into the heart now. Such a relief. Don't try and do anything about them. That's the job of healing. Your job is to be aware of the thoughts and to make a decision you want them to be healed, or at least some of them. The ones you allow to be healed will fall into that space. It's like the hands of Jesus there. He doesn't want your love, he wants your pain. As he heals your pain, the love shines forth automatically. He wants the obstacles. So if it helps, see his hands there in your heart, just receiving them. He knows all of them are silly, from a mild irritation to a desire to kill. He smiles at. Just see if you feel a little easier for doing this. There's a bit of progress perhaps. A little more peace. And then just in your own time, just gently bring yourself back to the room. Just monitor if there's any feeling of change there. Feeling a bit more peaceful from there?
Yes.
Okay, it's a very quick one, isn't it? It's one of the toilet exercises. So we're dealing with acceptance now. We began with awareness, vigilance, undoing the denial, seeing the pain in us, being aware that we've decided to have that pain. She just met a teacher in life. One of those on 2 feet that we were told about, that walk in all the time. And now we're working with the acceptance. We don't heal, you see, we don't know how to heal. The healing's waiting for our invitation to heal. Thank God we don't know how to heal. Our job is to be aware that it's our issue, to stop pointing our finger at the world, but equally then to stop pointing our finger at ourselves when we discover the anger, the jealousy and the hatred in us. It's to be soft, to be accepting of it. It's been said that that which we resist persists, and that which we can accept will be healed. And the ego teaches us to resist, to deny, to push down, and therefore it can't be healed. If the problem is out in the world, it can't be healed. The cause of your anger is out in the world, it can't be healed. Everything must be brought home. That's the miracle, that's the shift in perception. Seeing the same event, but differently. I remember when I was at Findhorn, I worked in a healing department for a few years, so we had some unusual and interesting cases that I could learn from. One woman, she had her hair falling out, which was very distressing for her. And she wanted to work with this. And just chatting in the first few minutes, she had a tremendous anger and hatred towards men, especially her father. And she sort of kept a distance from me as well. It's a bit of a challenge, just to ask someone male who was doing some healing work. Anyway, we arranged that session, and what felt appropriate was to sort of perhaps take her back to the time when she felt this pain. And she'd been sexually abused by her father when she was 5. And she told me about this pretty quickly, of course, even before the session. So it felt, to go back to that time of 5, see what was happening there. And she actually saw herself quite vividly as a very happy kid, bouncing around, which made her feel very sad that she'd lost this happiness. She'd been bitter for, 30 years now. Each day she woke up and put on the tape of hatred for her father and most men. And she saw herself, and the little girl sort of wanted to grab her hand and take her. She was quite good at visualizing, so I encouraged her to follow the girl. They went into a house and they went upstairs, and the little girl said, "Go into the room," and there was her father. And my client sat up like one of these mummies out of the tomb, and put on a hate tape and said, "How could he do this to me?" My mother knew it, and she just totally broke everything that was happening in the healing session. I said, "Okay, but you can come out or you can go back in again." What was the girl trying to show you? So she decided, and I said, ask the father, why did he abuse you? And she had this good link. And he said, as well as your mother, I knew 2 other women, two mistresses, but they all had me under the thumb. I had no power, and you were the only one I could demonstrate power over. And for the first time she had some idea of what was behind. I could see her relax a bit. There was a little acceptance, just a touch, a glimmer coming in. And then she just went totally quiet, almost like a corpse for about 5 minutes. And she came back smiling and said, I went to a time before I was born. And I was with my father and we had a great love for each other. And she said, you know, in this life I want to really learn about forgiveness and compassion. And due to the love between us, we agreed that he would abuse me when I was born to him. And about 4 weeks later, she sort of bounced in, gave me a hug, and said, my hair stopped falling out. I've lost this hatred. There was a deep acceptance of that. She could have argued, but this is just some crazy symbol and it doesn't mean anything. But she felt the truth. The Course says there's no accidents. We choose everything. We watch the videos. And she'd evoked, I think, a very powerful lesson, which needed acceptance and understanding and bringing home. Unusual, and took 30 years, but the anger that was probably pushing her hair out at the roots had now ceased. So acceptance I put as the second step after awareness. Not try and heal it ourselves. She at some level invoked that healing. I was just an agent, like a spiritual midwife. Others would have done who could work in that way. A week before she probably wasn't ready for it. Jesus probably would have had no effect on her. You know, we decide our time of healing. And then we arrange the special agents, as the Course says, you know, pills, therapy, operation, for our healings to occur. We could heal ourselves instantly. But as Jesus points out, for most of us, the shock would kill us. Because to heal instantly means to totally turn your thoughts upside down. I'm no longer a victim. My anger is not justified. Few of us can make that switch that quick. So we elect to be healed and then choose our pills and bark flowers or operations or therapists, and then we join in doing it.
Advice on acceptance, because I've heard the word in my own vocabulary when I talk about how important and how valuable it is. But how do you deal with resistance? But, you know, I accept, but.
Yes, excellent point. In all healing I've witnessed, you know, it's 99% resistance, and the healing takes place in less than a second. So when someone is particularly resistant, what I began to learn was that you have to accept the resistance. You've got the resistance to protect yourself. And so you can't start taking people's resistance away. You really see this when someone's psychotic and they think they're Jesus, you know. You can't rationalise them out of it. It's what they need as their defence at the moment. So if the resistance is strong, accept your resistance. That's where I'm at. I'm not ready to forgive. I'm not ready to not be angry. And what you've done is something wonderful. You've stepped back and witnessed your resistance. That's where I am at the moment. I'm resisting like hell. And at that moment it's got weaker. Because if you resist the resistance loves it. You believe in it. Believe in the resistance. And now you're saying, oh, I'm a resisting bugger, here I go again. A little smile maybe. Perhaps to borrow things we got. Oh, they're not, oh well. And so you're kind to yourself, you accept your resistance. Acceptance is part of love. We don't heal ourselves. The angels are like walking around all day saying, could I have your pain now? No, thank you. Oh, tomorrow then. It's not lack of help. We're like deep sea divers, you know, walking around in these suits, and the ocean's pressing all the time. We're saying, I'm trying to find water. And it's there. And we think we know best, so we delay letting it in. Usual old story, isn't it, down here? But without awareness, you won't see what you're doing. So you must have the awareness to just start resisting. And then the acceptance of the resistance starts to dissolve it. And one day you say, well, it's not worth it, is it? It's not worth it. You had a sign there for 15 minutes. Would you like another exercise? Okay. This will be a deeper one, and it's on the sheet. And we'll conclude with this exercise. So, comfortable again? So we'll follow the same routine. Take a few deep breaths. And then when you next breathe in, tense the muscles of the lower part of your body and relax them as you breathe out. As you breathe in again, tense the upper muscles, squeeze the shoulder blades together and let those go. Check your tongue is relaxed, your teeth are not clenched. And now send out your prayer of invitation. I'm open to being helped. I don't have to do this by myself. Again, if you're a good visualizer, perhaps the light. See it coming down now. Or hold the hand of Jesus or someone you respect. Perhaps the warmth. If you're not sure who needs forgiveness, ask this presence that you've invoked. Please show me, present someone to me where still work is needed. It could be the last person I thought of in the last exercise, or someone I thought I had forgiven. Some figure on TV, some tyrant. If you're having problems, just anyone you don't like. People you keep away from, people you've avoided at this conference. And as it begins to come into focus, feeling your body where you're holding this pain, this lack of peace. Working with acceptance, allow it to be there, don't try and change it. As you become more aware of this strain or tension, fear or sadness, if it helps, just put a comforting, accepting hand over that part of the body where there is some tension. The emotions that are there, or tears, that's fine. Tell yourself, I accept this feeling. It doesn't have to change or go away. Just repeat this silently to yourself. I accept this feeling. It doesn't have to change or go away. Probably notice some resistance to this, that you don't accept it. But just spend a little while repeating that. I accept this pain. It doesn't have to change or go away. Any emotions or tears, they're fine. They're part of the acceptance. Help you get in touch with this area, just look how big this pain or tension is in your body. Does it start and end? And how deep does it go into the body? Just let it be there. Now let's give this pain, whatever it is, a voice. But we'll dress it up as a small child, not your inner child, but represented by a child that's distressed. See if you can feel or see this child that represents this pain that you've carried a long time. It has a story to tell you. And your job is just to listen and accept the story. Perhaps from a very angry child. Perhaps you've had it locked up in a cupboard for years. It wants to tell you a story, why you've done this, why you have this child, how this pain has served you, why you've kept it. Just listen for a while to this child. Tell its story of your pain and why you have it. It may not allow it, but if you can pick up the child, still being quiet, and just hold it as it tells its story to you, it may refuse because it may be angry with you for being locked away. But if you can, pick it up. You must continue to listen. Child isn't used to this experience. It's used to being denied and resisted. It may even shout at you. It may cry. Just accept it. It'll allow you to comfort it a bit. If it's been crying, maybe you can dry its eyes. You may have had this child locked away a long time. You may or may not be ready to give it some freedom. Carry on listening to the child, but when it feels right, ask yourself, are you ready to release it, maybe into the hands of Jesus or the angels, or not ready yet? Just feel into that. Perhaps you want to get to know it a bit better before you give it its freedom. Either decision's fine. If you're not ready to let it go, then when you finish listening to it, just make it very small. Just put it into your heart and look down at it with acceptance. But if you're ready to release the child, call upon your help. If you're good at visualization, maybe you could see the angels or the hands of Jesus that the child could go to. You no longer need the pain it represents. If you're not ready for that, put it in your heart. Ready for the day when you're ready to let go. accept whatever progress or lack of progress you've made. No, you can always repeat this again if it helps you. Then when you feel ready, start to come back to the room. And then I'd just like you to, in the last few minutes, just turn to someone next to you and share anything you want from that experience. If you want to move your chairs to someone else that you want to share with, then please do. You don't have to share, but it's often a time when people just want to share a few things. If you're an odd number, there can be 3 of you sharing. Let's try and make 2s. We're finished. 2, you can stay on sharing. 3, we will meet again at 3 o'clock after lunch. 4, there's handouts here. There's the exercise we just did. There's a summary and a little extra for you to take with you. So thank you. Finance, do you want to continue sharing?